Peter Savoy and John Mayers. They invented, you probably don't know, but they're the ones that first began to write about emotional intelligence. IQ had already been come out with, and yet they saw this thing, something different than IQ, that some people had and some people didn't. This was EI, emotional intelligence. It wasn't made popular until the book EI, Why It Can Mean More Than IQ, came out, that it was truly popularized. But they began the work of figuring out what this thing of EI was. EI can be broken down into two sections. You have personal emotional intelligence and social. And I want to break those down for just 1 second. Now, personal emotional intelligence is understanding yourself, having personal self-awareness to know what's going on. This is knowing how you're feeling, being able to describe how you're feeling to other people. This is a super important thing, because if you don't know how you feel, then you definitely won't be able to function at your highest if you don't know that you're, say, angry or you're overwhelmed. If you don't know these things, you can't act on them. So that's why emotional intelligence is so important whenever you're looking at self-awareness. The second thing is self-management. You want to be able to manage yourself with this social emotional intelligence that you have. Whenever you're in public, you're not only trying to manage what's on the outside, but if you can manage what's on the inside, you're able to connect with the outside a lot easier. And she talks about that later in this chapter, and we'll get into that in a second. The other side is social emotional intelligence. This is finding other people and seeing how they feel, being able to describe how they feel. This is super important because say you're trying to sell something. Say I'm trying to sell you something, and I see that you're starting to get a little agitated because maybe I'm being annoying or you didn't like something I said. But if I can get to know what you're feeling, then I can use my words to make you feel more comfortable. And that's awesome. The second part is the fuel. This is developing your self-awareness. Many of us maybe weren't born with this. We probably went through our dorky teenage years and we had no emotional intelligence at all. But you can do this. She says the two things that we can start to work on to build this emotional intelligence is to read others and explain your feelings. This is what we touched on earlier. The fact that by explaining your feelings, you're able to have more emotional intelligence in the long run. The fuel or the fire for this one was that stats don't lie. A few stats that she shared was that 67% retention went up whenever this Fortune 500 company started using emotional intelligence training. Another company saved $32 million, allegedly, because they implemented this kind of training. And for salespeople, you can double your sales by simply understanding what people are going through. Now, the last part is how useful this is in networking. Dr. White tells us all the time how important networking is to our personal brand. And if you don't have emotional intelligence, you won't be able to market. You won't be able to network. And that's why emotional intelligence matters.